Now, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has passed the presidency of the G20 to Brazil, marking the end of this year's summit in Delhi. At the closing ceremony, Brazilian President Lula da Silva said geopolitical issues should not be allowed to derail the G20's agenda. Leaders earlier issued a joint declaration despite major differences over the war in Ukraine. Unlike last year's communique, the document does not mention Russia by name. Despite criticism of the statement's language from Kyiv, leaders at the summit praised the agreement for its important commitments. Let's have a listen to what the German Chancellor had to say.
You could say this was a summit of decisions, where progress was made on many issues that are important for the future of the world. Among them, a clear commitment that the territorial integrity of Ukraine and its regions is not up for debate, and that borders cannot simply be redrawn by force. I'm also very pleased that, once again, there was a clear rejection of the use of nuclear weapons. I believe these are positive results that we're able to achieve here at this summit.
Our Chief International Editor, Richard Walker, is in Delhi. Hello, Richard. So, Olaf Scholz seems to be happy with the results. The Russians also seem to be content with the outcome. But who carries the biggest success from the summit?
Well, you know, it is normal after an event like this for everybody to be out there talking to the media and claiming success. And certainly the Russians, in the form of Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, have been doing exactly that. Lavrov, of course, seizing on the fact that you just mentioned there, that Russia is not explicitly called out by name in the text of the declaration, seeing that as an opening to be able to call this declaration a success for Russia, even though there is actually a considerable amount of text which very, very clearly does refer to the war in Ukraine. Western leaders, of course, have been pushing back against that. Emmanuel Macron has denied that this is a victory for Russia, which some have been claiming, and Olaf Scholz, we just heard him there, saying that it's very clear that the language in the declaration criticizing or saying that you simply cannot use force against another country in order to gain territory, that's very clearly referring to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But I think the country that has the strongest claim to success here is the host nation, India, that it oversaw against the odds getting this declaration despite the huge sort of chasm of division between Russia and China on the one side and the West on the other side, and also making a pretty convincing claim to becoming the voice of the global South, which has been a theme very much of India's G20 presidency.
I mean, you've been keenly following this summit. What would you say is the main outcome?
Well, I think it is partly that story about India, but also if we look a bit more broadly, it's not just about India. It is more broadly these countries that you could call almost like in-between powers, India, Indonesia, South Africa, Brazil, that have been working together to try to find a way in between Russia and China on the one side and the Western powers led by the United States on the other side, rejecting the idea that the world might slip into some sort of Cold War and trying to find a middle ground. And it was not just India, but those countries working together, we're hearing, that helped come up with the language of this declaration that got past the Russians and the Chinese and got past the West, essentially pushing both sides of this major geopolitical conflict that we're seeing deepening by the day almost, getting both sides to come together and compromise. So I think that's really their moment, these major in-between powers. India, of course, first and foremost. Interestingly, Brazil next gets the G20 presidency next year, so we can see this tendency continuing at least next year.
Okay. DW's Chief International Editor, Richard Walker in Delhi. Thank you.